What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Entertainment Channel, where I talk about everything sports from a Chicago sports fan's perspective. Today, I'm doing a little bit of Cubs history, talking about things that have happened on July 16th throughout the Cubs history here in Chicago. So let's get into some history. Let's get into some sports. And it's time, y'all, because we ready. We up. We live. It's Monday or Wednesday, July 16th. Who gets that amped up for Monday? Nobody. But without further ado, going to get right into it, man. So today in Cubs history, July 16th, 1916, the Chicago Cubs play Brooklyn in a 16-inning, 7-7 tie that got called on account of darkness in the 10th inning. So that, I thought this was crazy. If you've ever played sports throughout your life, you know there's always a time where you're at the park, you're playing baseball, you're playing softball, and they're like, yo, we got like 10 minutes left. The lights are going to go out. The park closes at 11. On this day in Cubs history, July 16th, 1916, so July 16, 1916, the Cubs played the Brooklyn Robins in a 16-inning, 7-7 tie. And the reason it ended in a tie was darkness, guys. There wasn't lights back then at the stadium, so they had to call the game 7-7 tie after an epic game at Weeghman Park, which later became Wrigley Field. In that game, there was an attendance of 16,000 people and a game time of 3 hours and 55 minutes, something that would be way too long for the modern fan to endure. Something else cool about that was that Weeghman Park actually became, that was the first year it became the home of the Chicago Cubs. So on this day, Cubbies, they tied the Brooklyn Robins 7-7. The game ended after 16 innings because of darkness, no lights in the stadium. They had to end the game, and that was at Weeghman Field. So if you are a Cubs fan, you know Wrigley's been there forever. For as long as you can probably think. If you've been alive, definitely been there. This is what Wrigley used to look like before it was even called Wrigley Field. So it's kind of crazy to see that perspective where home base still was, or home plate. I'm like, why that sounds so stupid. Where home plate was, and it's still facing the same orientation. Obviously, things have changed today, but this was pretty cool when I took a look at this, just seeing that, man, the Cubbies, this team have been around forever. They've had, you remember back, even not that long ago, they didn't have night games because they didn't have lights at Wrigley. And this goes all the way back to 1916, over 100 years ago. A game had to end in a tie because there wasn't any light outside. So if there's anything you could relate to, it definitely is that in Chicago. I play softball, grew up playing baseball, and there's plenty of times when you're like in a house league somewhere where they're like, yo, guys, the lights are about to go out. We got like 5 minutes left, or yo, game's over. We can't have the lights anymore because of the neighborhood. So I thought this was really cool, man. Back in the day, it feels like it was just so much more organic. There's literally people just sitting out in the outfield, which is crazy. You got the scoreboard back there. They got this little rendition of just some of the progress on the new Chicago Federal League Park. And this is 1914. So it was built in 1914, didn't become home of the Cubbies until 1916. And just some really cool stuff, man. If you guys ever heard of this place, let me know, because it looks almost the same. You take a look right there. Like, this is basically what ended up becoming Wrigley Field, the Chicago new Federal League Park. It was a part of a different team the first 2 years. Then the Cubbies took over. But some super, I mean, I guess for me as a baseball nerd and kind of a history nerd, I'm like, damn, bro. I can only imagine what it felt like to be there. Looks dangerous. Like, you get hit. I mean, I don't think they're hitting as far as they were back in the day. Can't really tell there's a fence either. Is there? It won't let me zoom in more. I'm trying to see if there's even a fence here, because that's even more wild. They're just like kind of chilling. And it looks to me very similar to the brick wall we have now, because you go to Wrigley, it's like the same thing. I think I sat on this rooftop once the other day. So super cool, guys. On this day, Chicago Cubs history, they had a tie 7-7 against the Brooklyn Robins. The game got called after 16 innings because of darkness. So just something, a sign of the times. 1916, that obviously wouldn't happen nowadays, but very interesting. And they got everything on Baseball Reference. So if you really want to go get into the weeds, you can see all the stats. Jimmy Johnston, Oli O'Mara. And that's kind of the funny part I was looking at, was just the names back there. Ollie, Jake, Zach, George, Casey, Gus Getz. Gus gets what? What does he get? We don't know. Ruby McCard, or Rube. Otto, Les, Max, Cy, Heine. That's a kind of funny-ass name. Joe Kelly, Eddie Mulligan, I can't read. Clem Clemens, very creative parents. Tom Seaton, Jimmy Archer. All right, well, we'll move on, though. So that's the first thing on today in Cubs history. The second thing, a little bit sadder, a little more grim, maybe because it was in my lifetime. But if you guys remember absolute legend, Hall of Famer. On July 16th, 1992, in Cubs history, at a press conference in Pittsburgh, Greg Maddux announced that he broke off negotiations with Cubs management and was going to become a free agent after that season. He was only playing on a one-year contract. And what's crazy is in 1992, Maddux was absolutely dominant. He had 20 games. He won 20 games. He had led the league in several categories. So let's see here. Let me get those right before I start ripping them off here. So 1992, July 16th, he announces basically, I'm ending the contract negotiations. I'm going to enter free agency at the end of this season. And you got to understand, at 1992, Greg Maddux was dominant. He had 20 wins that season for the only time in his 23-year career. He led the league in wins with 20, games started with 35, innings pitched with 268, and he had a ERA plus of 166. And that was the year he won his first NL Cy Young before he ended up departing for the Atlanta Braves and winning 3 more Cy Youngs. He ended up winning 4 Cy Youngs in a row. He spent his next 11 years in Atlanta and just became one of the most dominant pitchers in all of the MLB. So today in Cubs history, Greg Maddux announced that he was going to be entering free agency. He ended up leaving the Chicago Cubs after a 20-win season, after leading the league in games started with 35, leading the league in innings pitched with 268. He left the Cubs, joined Atlanta, where he ended up winning 3 more Cy Youngs and spent the next 11 seasons of his career. He did end up coming back to Chicago way later in his career, not nearly the same guy he was in 1992. But this definitely was a big turning point for not only Greg Maddux, but for the Cubs, because I feel like for the rest of the 90s, we were pretty sad. And they were pretty sad in 1992 as well. But after he left, it kind of seems like we didn't really pick up momentum again until like 98, 99 when Kerry Wood came around. And kind of things started revamping from up there. But crazy story that I didn't even think about this. I'm like, man, obviously I wasn't even born in 92. I'm a 93 baby. But for Greg Maddux, that we ever let him go. I remember when I was growing up and people would say like, he used to be on the Cubs. I was like, what? What do you mean he was on the Cubs? Because my whole life from 93 to high school in 2007, this dude was on the Braves, where the Braves were winning the NL East every season. I think they won every year for like 15, 16 years in a row. And when people would tell me back then, can you believe this guy used to be on the Cubs? I was like, what the fuck? Like this, I used to get pissed, and it reminded me why the Cubs sucked. And then he ended up coming back when he was old. And that's like, if you're a Chicago fan, that's the most Chicago shit that ever happens is the Cubs, the Bulls, the Bears. They always sign people when they're like past their prime, when we know they're on the second half of the career, when they're on the bottom of the hill. And that's kind of what happened with Greg Maddux. We probably would have never got a World Series. He probably would have never got a World Series, but him being a lifelong Cub would have been crazy. And just those stats alone, man, the fact that in July of that season, July 16th, can you imagine there's still 2 more months of the season to go, and this dude's like, yeah, we're going to end talks. I'm just going to hit free agency. Ends up winning 20 games, ends up leading the league in innings pitched with 268, wins a Cy Young, and then just dips off to Atlanta, goes there for 11 years, wins 3 more Cy Youngs, makes him win 4 Cy Youngs in a row, man. So on this day, July 16th, 1992, Greg Maddux announced that he was ending contract negotiations with the Cubbies, was going to enter free agency, and subsequently he did leave, ended up in Atlanta, and became one of the best pitchers ever, Hall of Famer, everything. Did come back to the Cubbies, but it was way too late, guys. Oh, it's so sad. Looking at this jersey, though, this gives me Rookie of the Year vibes. You guys remember that movie, Rookie of the Year? Rookie of the Year. Movie. This is literally what it reminds me of. Like, why does he look just like him? They don't got him thrown on the mound. Do we see the resemblance? Where's a good picture? It looks similar. You can't stunt. You can't lie. You can't lie. It's an iconic movie, too. If you guys haven't seen Rookie of the Year, go watch it. One of the funniest sports movies. I don't know if it still holds up. That's kind of what it reminds me of. That old uniform right there with the little cubby on there. Greg Maddux, Rookie of the Year. Oh, I didn't even know that was in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois. Hey, Rogan Garner, you suck. Great movie. Go check it out, though. But let's look at that comparison. Greg Maddux, Rookie of the Year, same person, time traveler. You never know. No, I'm just joking. It's just the uniforms look good, though. I like that. It's ironic, too, that in Rookie of the Year, he wears the same exact outfit. Long sleeve, Blue Cubby pinstripe, blue hat, blue hat. I'm assuming it's because it was a movie that was same year the movie was made. I cannot speak English. Alrighty, guys, but that wraps it up for today. Just quick little 10-minute video. Let me know what you guys think. A little bit more history, a little bit more Cubs. If I had to pick between the two, obviously contextually, the Greg Maddux thing, a lot more serious. He ends up leaving, becomes a Hall of Famer, wins 3 more Cy Youngs with the Braves, versus a cool story. Weeghman Field, game gets called after 16 innings because of darkness. I don't know which story's cooler. I think the Greg Maddux one's a lot sadder just because I'm like, damn, bro, we lost a Hall of Famer in the prime of his career, versus this is kind of cool. I'm like, yo, that's pretty crazy. Wrigley still looks almost exactly the same without some minor updates. But scoreboard is there now. You see the old scoreboard, a little different, just a little different. But let me know what you guys think. Did you guys like some history? Do you like the Cubbies? And what other histories happened today? There was some other stuff I saw out there historically wise. Might start doing some stuff like that. But we keeping it sports. We keeping it Cubbies today. And league picks back up this weekend after the All-Star break. Cubs game versus Red Sox. I'll be going this Sunday against the Red Sox. When is like MLB All-Star break over? I'm on images. Oh, my God. They don't want to give us the answers around here. They always make it so difficult. So, yeah, games start up on Friday after the MLB All-Star game. Cubbies hosting the Boston Red Sox in Wrigley Field. I'll be checking out that game on Sunday. I'm geeked up. Go see the hottest team right now, the Red Sox, versus my favorite team, the baddest team, the Chicago Cubbies. But I'm about to check out here. Remember, when you're on the entertainment channel, you always got to go crazy. You never could be lazy, and you got to be doing nothing. Fugazi, deuces.